Hello, and welcome back to Verity Tales, the channel where we dive deep into the captivating histories of nations around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our fascinating journeys through time. Today, we're delving into the rich tapestry of Brazil's history, from its earliest inhabitants to the vibrant culture we see today. So sit back, relax, and let's embark on this historical adventure together. Our story begins over 10,000 years ago, in a land teeming with natural wonders and untamed beauty. The early inhabitants of Brazil were pioneers of their time, living off the land as skilled hunter-gatherers. They navigated the vast jungles and lush landscapes, hunting manatees, gathering shellfish, and fishing along the winding rivers and coastlines. Their survival depended on their deep connection with nature, and they thrived in harmony with their environment. But as time marched on, so too did the evolution of Brazilian society. Around 1000 BC, a monumental shift occurred as some Brazilians embraced the revolutionary concept of agriculture. Utilizing innovative slash-and-burn techniques, they cleared the land, allowing them to cultivate crops such as sweet potatoes, maize, and manioc. This transition marked a pivotal moment in Brazil's history, laying the groundwork for future generations. Yet, amidst the winds of change, the heart of Brazilian culture remained steadfast. The farmers not only cultivated the land but also honed their skills in crafting ceramics and basketry. Their dwellings, simple yet sturdy, served as a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. And though some continued to embrace the nomadic lifestyle of their ancestors, the spirit of community and kinship endured. On April 23, 1500, when Portuguese explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral landed on the shores of what would become Brazil. This initial discovery was followed by another expedition led by Amerigo Vespucci in 1501. Despite these significant voyages, the Portuguese initially showed little interest in their new territory, focusing instead on establishing coastal trade sites and extracting Brazil wood for European markets. However, the presence of the French along the Brazilian coast prompted the Portuguese to take more decisive action. In 1530, they began to establish a formal colony, starting with the settlement at São Vicente, led by Martim Alfonso de Souza. In an effort to encourage immigration, the Portuguese monarch divided the Brazilian coastline into 15 sections in 1532, granting them to merchants and nobility. This strategy aimed to solidify their claim and foster growth in the new colony. Despite these efforts, Brazil's growth remained slow until 1549 when the Portuguese crown unified the colony and declared Salvador its capital. Tomé de Souza was appointed governor-general, and his leadership marked the beginning of more structured colonial governance. The late 16th century saw a major turning point with the introduction of sugarcane. Sugar plantations rapidly spread, worked by enslaved Africans, turning Brazil into a leading sugar supplier to Europe by the early 17th century. But this period of expansion came at a high cost for the indigenous population. Epidemics introduced by Europeans decimated communities, and many indigenous people were enslaved, suffering immensely under colonial rule. The interaction between the Europeans and indigenous peoples was tragic, marked by disease, displacement, and exploitation, a dark chapter in Brazil's history that cannot be overlooked. In the early 17th century, with the Dutch and French making bold attempts to claim parts of Brazil. The Dutch launched 2 invasions of Salvador, the capital, but were repelled. However, their determination led to a temporary occupation of northern Brazil from 1630 to 1654. Meanwhile, the French established a foothold in Guanabara Bay in 1555 but were expelled by 1657. They also briefly captured northern territories in 1612, only to be driven out by 1615. These incursions highlighted the strategic importance of Brazil to European powers. As the sugar industry's dominance waned in the late 17th century, a new economic beacon emerged: gold. The discovery of gold in 1695 and again in 1719 spurred a massive migration to Brazil's interior, transforming the nation's demographic and economic landscape. This gold rush led to the relocation of the capital to Rio de Janeiro in 1763, symbolizing the shift in Brazil's economic center. However, by 1760, the gold fever had subsided, leaving lasting changes in its wake. Enter Marques de Pombal, who governed Brazil from 1750 to 1777. His administration introduced new crops such as rice, cocoa, and cotton, partially reviving the sugar industry. Pombal's influence reshaped Brazil's agricultural landscape and economic policies. Pombal's reforms set the stage for a period of revitalization, even as the global dynamics continued to evolve around Brazil. In 1807, the geopolitical landscape of Europe profoundly impacted Brazil. With Napoleon's invasion of Portugal, the Portuguese royal family fled to Rio de Janeiro, making it the new capital of the Portuguese Empire. This royal migration led to a population boom in Rio, and the city rapidly developed with new libraries, theaters, and other public structures. The influx of the royal court transformed Rio de Janeiro into a bustling imperial center. In 1808, when the monarch of Portugal initiated significant economic reforms in Brazil. By lifting restrictions on the industrial sector and allowing trade with friendly nations beyond Portugal, the Brazilian economy began to flourish. This new policy attracted numerous European artists and craftspeople, enriching Brazil's cultural landscape. This wave of change set the stage for Brazil's evolving identity and burgeoning economic strength. When the monarch returned to Portugal in 1820, he left his son, Dom Pedro, as regent. Despite being summoned back to Portugal in October 1821, Dom Pedro chose to stay in Brazil, influenced by the local sentiment for independence. On September 7, 1822, Dom Pedro declared Brazil's independence, a historic moment finally acknowledged by Lisbon in 1825. This bold move marked the birth of a new nation, free from colonial rule. However, Dom Pedro's reign faced significant challenges. In 1826, he signed a treaty with Britain agreeing to abolish the slave trade within 3 years, angering plantation owners. Although the slave trade was officially outlawed in 1831, it continued unofficially until 1854, and slavery persisted until 1888. Dom Pedro's decision to step down in 1831, leaving his 5-year-old son, Dom Pedro II, as heir, plunged Brazil into a period of instability marked by revolts like the Cabana Gem in Para in 1835 and another uprising in Bahia in 1838. Despite these early challenges, Dom Pedro II was crowned at just 14 years old in 1840 and soon proved to be a capable ruler. His reign brought stability and growth to Brazil, but it wasn't without its own conflicts. One of the most significant conflicts was the brutal Triple Alliance War from 1864 to 1870, where Brazil, along with Argentina and Uruguay, fought against Paraguay. Despite the heavy toll, Brazil and its allies emerged victorious. This victory, though costly, solidified Brazil's position in South America and showcased the resilience and strength of its people. With the rise of Brazil's coffee industry, coffee production started in the Amazonian region in 1727 and gradually spread across the country by the late 18th century. The industry truly boomed in the mid-19th century, with Brazil becoming a leading coffee exporter between 1830 and 1964. The construction of a railroad network in the 1870s and 1880s played a crucial role in this expansion, making it easier to transport coffee to ports for export. Coffee became the backbone of Brazil's economy, shaping its development for over a century. Alongside coffee, the mid-19th century also saw the rise of Brazil's rubber industry, particularly in the Amazon, and the cultivation of cacao. These industries flourished and contributed to Brazil's economic diversity. However, this period was also marked by significant political changes. The growing sentiment for republicanism culminated in the overthrow of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic in 1889. From the 1870s onwards, Brazil experienced a significant influx of European immigrants, particularly Portuguese, Germans, Italians, and Japanese. This wave of immigration peaked between the 1890s and the 1920s, profoundly impacting Brazilian society and economy. Despite this growth, Brazil was not immune to global economic challenges. The 1929 stock market crash led to a global depression, causing a severe drop in demand for Brazilian coffee. This economic downturn triggered unrest among plantation owners and led to a revolution. In 1937, the army intervened, and Getulio Vargas became president. Under his rule, known as Estado Novo or New State, Brazil saw significant changes. Vargas nationalized key industries, implemented welfare programs, and promoted industrial development. Brazil also took a bold step onto the world stage by joining World War II against Germany in 1942, eventually sending troops to Italy in 1944. Vargas's era ended in 1945 and the army forced him to resign. This led to presidential elections, which were won by Eurico Dutra, marking a transition from dictatorship to a new democratic phase. With the return of Getulio Vargas to power in 1950. Despite winning the election, his presidency was plagued by growing national debt and inflation. Under intense pressure from the army, Vargas chose to end his own life rather than step down in August 1954. This tragic event left Brazil in shock and marked a significant turning point in its political landscape. Following Vargas, Juscelino Kubitschek took office and oversaw substantial progress, most notably the founding of Brasilia, the new capital, in 1960. Kubitschek's vision of 50 years of progress in 5 transformed Brazil's infrastructure and national identity. However, his term was followed by Jânio Quadros, whose unexpected resignation after just 7 months in office led to the presidency of João Goulart. The early 1960s were a period of mounting economic difficulties, with Brazil facing high inflation and widespread social unrest. This instability culminated in a military coup in 1964, which ushered in 2 decades of military rule. During this time, most political parties were outlawed, labor unions were repressed, and media was tightly controlled, leading to significant curtailments of political freedoms. The military dictatorship intensified in the late 1960s and early 1970s, coinciding with urban guerrilla warfare and severe political crackdowns. Yet, this period also saw what is often called the Brazilian economic miracle, characterized by rapid economic growth. However, this growth came with stark disparities, rising inflation, and unemployment. While the economy grew, the benefits were unevenly distributed, leading to increased social tensions. In the late 1970s, the authoritarian regime began to slightly loosen its grip. Trade unions were reauthorized following significant strikes in São Paulo in 1977, signaling the beginning of a slow return to political normalcy. These changes set the stage for Brazil's eventual transition back to democracy in the coming decades. In the early 1980s, after years of strict military rule, the army began lifting censorship and legalized political parties, setting the stage for a new era in Brazilian politics. However, they stipulated that the president, set to take office in 1985, would be chosen not by the people, but by an electoral college made up of congressional and senatorial members. This was a cautious step towards democracy, reflecting the army's reluctance to fully relinquish control. In a surprising turn of events, the Electoral College elected Tancredo Neves as president in 1985, marking the proclamation of the new republic. However, Neves tragically passed away before he could take office, and his vice president, José Sarney, assumed the presidency. Sarney's presidency faced significant economic challenges, with inflation rates soaring and the economy struggling to stabilize. In 1990, Fernando Collor de Mello was elected president, promising economic reforms. However, his tenure was cut short by corruption charges, leading to his resignation in 1992. Itamar Franco took over, and with the help of his finance minister, Fernando Henrique Cardoso, implemented crucial strategies to tackle inflation and stabilize the economy. Cardoso's successful economic policies propelled him to the presidency in 1994, and he was re-elected in 1998, bringing a period of relative stability to Brazil. The new millennium saw the rise of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, commonly known as Lula, who won the presidency in 2002. His administration focused on social programs and economic growth, making significant strides in reducing poverty. In 2011, Dilma Rousseff became Brazil's first female president and was re-elected in 2014. However, her presidency was marred by economic difficulties and political turmoil, leading to her impeachment and removal from office in 2016. Despite these political challenges, Brazil continued to grow. The economy contracted in 2015 and 2016, but signs of recovery emerged in 2017. Key industries, including car manufacturing, chemicals, and iron production, played a significant role in this recovery. Additionally, Brazil's population grew rapidly in the early 21st century, reaching 215 million by 2024, reflecting the dynamic and evolving nature of this vibrant nation. And there you have it, a closer look at Brazil's recent history, filled with political transitions, economic challenges, and significant milestones. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the mysteries of our world here on Verity Tales. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on all our latest adventures. Until next time, keep exploring and never stop seeking the truth. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into the fascinating history of this country, grab a copy of our detailed book version, link in the description. Packed with rich insights and captivating stories, it's a must-read for history enthusiasts.